Hi, welcome to the Adama Arts Center at Bethel Horizons. I'm Jennifer Malley and I'm the director here, and this is our third short project video. And today we're going to be talking about making felted balls. So these are they can be a lovely decoration in a bowl, or if they're made out of plain wool like this, they can be used as dryer balls. This is a really fun project for kids to do on a rainy afternoon, or it's actually quite therapeutic to make these. So let's talk about how to go about making one. So the first thing is, you're going to need some wool roving. It can't be synthetic, you have to have real wool. This is about 10 feet of natural colored wool. And it's really good to use either gray or white, especially if you want to use colors, because then the colors show off against this. We also have colored roving here. So I've just purchased this from over the internet. So these are pre-dyed pieces, and this is going to be the accent colors for the wool balls. Besides needing roving, about 10 feet of roving plus some accent colors. It's also good, it's not mandatory to make it, but it can be helpful to also have some wool yarn. And then you're also going to need a bowl of hot water, as hot as your hands can stand, and a bowl of cold water. And you're going to need some just normal dishwashing soap, nothing special, just soap. The other thing that's nice to have is this is just a very inexpensive women's knee-high nylon, and we're going to be cutting this, and it's using it as a form to help us make the wool balls, because we're going to put it in water. So let's just go through how to start this. So this natural colored roving is going to be making up the inside of the wool ball, and I start with rolling a tight ball of it around my finger like this, and I continue to roll, and I keep it pretty tight, and I can rip this off. I can rip these roving off into segments and kind of splay the wool open as I wind it into a ball. And this is where having a piece of, also it has to be wool, string or yarn comes in handy. So I'm going to cut myself a length of it like this. And how this helps is, especially if children are doing this, this can often help to hold the ball together in your fingers so that it doesn't fall apart while you're winding. You can just put the string around it like this. And you're going to build up layers of roving around the center. Work on this for a little while here. Now as you get to have a larger and larger ball of yarn, it's going to get fluffier to work with, and that's okay. That's why we're going to put it in a women's nylon knee-high to help us keep it all together. So I'm going to wind this around like this. And oftentimes winding in different directions. So if I've wound it around this time, or last time in this direction, I can start the wool in an opposite direction to build up the layers here. So I just kind of pull this apart. This roving is, you can just buy it over the internet as well. This is often what spinners use when they're doing hand spun yarns. Okay, we're almost done here with the base. I'm trying to keep it somewhat tight, not as tight as possible, but just firmly together. Okay, so once we have this core done, okay, have to be a perfect ball. It should be ball-like. There we go. So that's a good base, okay, to start felting. We're gonna want to add some of our accent colors. And this can be tricky because you gotta hold onto the ball and kind of work these colors in to the surface. So we take a little bit of roving and we can splay it open like this, and we can lay it over the middle section here. And I'm just going to pull some colors in. They can be kind of layered and mixed around like this. Put a little bit more pink in here. And you can do a couple of layers of these colors because they do shrink. So let's do this. I think for demonstration purpose, this is probably a good example of what you would start with right here. At this point, if you want to add some other wool yarn as accents, this is a good time to do it. I'm not going to add it to it. Sometimes the colored yarns that you wrap around here can be quite dominant in the design work, but I'm just showing you this as an option because any material that's made out of wool will felt and integrate itself into this ball. So this is going to stick together, so I'm going to set this down, and now I'm going to show you how I use this knee-high sock here. So about halfway up, I'm just going to cut. I'm going to cut it in half, and I'm just going to use the toe part of the sock, and I'm going to peel it open like this, and I'm going to use this to stretch around the wool ball that we've just built here. So I'm going to go like this, and this is kind of interesting because how this goes in here is also kind of sets the design and the overlap of some of the colors that are on the surface of this. So we're going to stick it in here, make sure there's no little points of wool sticking up, okay, and we're going to just kind of twist it. So now we have this nice little very smushy ball, and this is where we start the felting process. Now before I put it in the water, I want to explain a few things about wool. If you were to look at a strand of wool up close, the wool fiber has little scales or kind of barbs on it, and that's what makes felting possible. So as you combine individual pieces of the wool in hot water, the barbs open up on each strand, and as you use hot water, as you begin to use motion along with soap, those barbs get tangled, and then as you tangle them, they become felted. And if you put it then in cold water, those barbs close back up again and lock around each other. So it creates a fabric, or they stick together like a mass. So this is the kind of the magic of felting. So we're going to start by putting this ball in the hot water. We're going to soak it right in here. And I'm going to add, this is just plain dishwashing soap, and it's quite a bit. I put like a tablespoon on it, and I'm going to start to just gently, because you don't want to take your ball out of round. You're just going to kind of rub the surface, and you're going to do this gently. Now a ball will take maybe 45 minutes to make. So we're not going to tape it the whole time. I'm going to show you a little bit of the beginning of the felting work, and then we're going to skip to the end where I will complete the ball. But I'll take you a few more minutes into the felting process here. So as you can see, the ball's already becoming a little smaller and a little bit firmer. I can keep putting it in the warm water, and as I squeeze it and I start to rub the surface, you can feel the barbs, so to speak, kind of locking together and shrinking the ball and tightening. The fibers are tightening around each other. So as we do this, we've got this going. I'm going to then dip it in cold water, and it'll firm that ball up. You can feel the ball start to firm up when you get it soaking in the cold water. So what we're going to do is we'll come back and you'll see this ball towards the end of this process. So we'll return in a few minutes. So as we do this, we've got this going. I'm going to then dip it in cold water, and it'll firm that ball up. You can feel the ball start to firm up when you get it soaking in the cold water. So what we're going to do is we'll come back and you'll see this ball towards the end of this process. So we'll return in a few minutes. So hi, we're back. We've jumped ahead in time by about 15 minutes here. And in the meantime, I've been working on felting this ball. And it's time to take it out of the nylon, and we can work on it without it on the surface. So we just peel it right off. And this is the ball. It's already gotten a good jump ahead on being felted. And on this, by taking that off, we can use our hands to continue to get the shape that we want and the surface finish that we want. So by rolling this, I'm not kneading it anymore. I kneaded it at the beginning to kind of get the center felted, but now it's pretty firm, and now I'm just kind of working on getting the exterior fibers to lay nice and smooth. So I could consider this done at any point now, or I could take it further, and I would probably reduce it in size by maybe another 10% or so if I just kept felting it. So I'm going to put it in the cold water over here and just firm it up a little bit more. Soap out of it. All right, I'm going to put it back one last time. And as I roll it gently like this, even if you leave some soap in it, it's okay when it dries. It'll help to lay those fibers down nice and neatly on the surface of the ball. And I'm going to get it nice and round here. And at this point, it's done enough to call this ball finished. And I just dry it on. Now I would typically dry it on either a rack or a towel or some surface that can handle moisture. I can come back even an hour to 2 hours later if I want to and lay some of these fibers down a little bit better, so it's still malleable for a little time afterwards. So let that dry. It might take 2 days to dry. It depends on the humidity in your house. These I made last night, and I can still feel a little bit of moisture inside of them. And when they dry, they'll get very, very light and airy. And some of the things I've seen people do with these are at the point when they're dry, you can take needle and embellish them with embroidery thread, buttons, charms, ribbon. You just sew in and out with a nice solid ribbon. I've seen people stack them with beads in between them like this and hang them in the windows. These are great for pets to play with, children to make, where they just make a really beautiful centerpiece for the middle of a basket like this. So that is your basics about how to make felt balls. For the specifics again about the materials and some basic instructions, please go to our website, which is AtamaArtStudio.org. Thank you so much for watching this demonstration, and we'll have more in the future. Thank you.